Hey campus, Georgia, look at me, here in the South 40 in the little man cave. Can you believe it? A t-shirt and shorts, the horror. Summer is coming. Woot! But working on a project, just something I've always wanted to do, and that is replace the handles on a knife with my own wood. So that's what I'm going to do now with the peasant knife, the mini. Let's check it out. So you can see I took the peasant knife apart because I wanted to see what was involved inside. You won't believe just how simple this knife is. So you can see I took the scales off, and it was just held in by 2 flat screws which go into these guys, which I haven't taken out yet. These ferrules going through, which have a thread inside, so the screws screw into there and hold it in. Looking here, you can see here how the knife works. Let me show you how simple it is. And there's been some problems with this, and apparently this knife has the problem as well. So I'm going to have to be careful how I do this. Now the knife, when you have it open, is sitting like that. Can you see that? And then when you it sits on that piece of brass sticking out there. That's the stopper, and you are holding the blade in. When it swings around and you're going to close it, it swings around like this, and you can see that brass stopper there does the same job again. It's a stopper. But look here. My blade is touching that ferrule. Not good. Every time I close it, I'm going to damage the blade. So what I'm going to have to do is where this stopper is right now, when I make my handle, I'm going to want to bring that stopper a little bit further down so that when the knife closes, it doesn't hit there. So that's going to be the trick there. But first of all, we have to make the scales. Like over a year ago, Lee called me one day and said, I've chopped down a tree. I'm sure you've seen the video. Let's go play bushcraft stuff. So I went over to his place and we landed up splitting a log, bushcraft style. We landed up making a big mallet, this guy, from the same tree. And we used this to split the rest of the log with my camp axe. And it was a good time, and I got to bring some wood home. I really like that wood. The reason is if you look at this, and it doesn't really show up now, but when you oil this, it's going to show up. But you can see there's light and then dark. It goes from lighter to darker. Can you see that? What I want to do is make the scales out of this. Now, this is from a stick I'm working on now. Been working on it for a year. I wanted it to dry and everything. Well, it has now, and it's gonna be a project I'll tackle this summer. But I wanted to do this. So what I'm gonna do is land up marking the scales on this so that one side is gonna be mainly dark wood, and then the other side will be light wood, all from the same piece. So I'm gonna have to mark it all out, cut it out, and then we're gonna put them together, and I'm going to have to file them down and form. I want the same shape as this because I really like the way these felt. Let's have at it. So I've got the 2 pieces of wood together, and I've marked the shape of the handle here. What I got to do now is cut this down and get the shape as close as I can. Not too close, because I don't want to, you can always take off more, you can't add. So I'm going to get down as close as I can. See, I've got the wood together. I'm going to have to smooth out the wood more. And of course, it's very thick. When you compare it to one of these one side, just looking here, quite a lot to come off there. So now I've got to get rid of all this excess wood. Hopefully here you can see the different colors in the wood. Oh, well, more to do. It's time to go inside. So I'm back in the man cave, and over the past couple of days I just spend an hour or so just working on the wood, getting it down to size. This is where I am now. You can see what I did was I mounted the skins here on it, filed and sandpapered it down about as close as I want to get. So that's where I am now. Now what I got to do is something I didn't do before. It's not really obvious on this side. You can see how tight it is there. There's gaps here, and that's because I didn't flatten out the edges before I clamped it together. I'm going to do that now just by using sandpaper, lying it flat on the bench and just rubbing it and cleaning them out so that the inside pieces are nice, clean and straight. Then I'm going to put the blade in and start working on it. You know, I'm going to start working on the sizes. They're way bigger than the skins, and I want them smaller. So what I'm going to be doing is I'll mount this in here and take the scales off, mount it, and then clean it up. But before I do that, I'm going to be putting this blade in there, and it's sharp, very sharp, and I want to protect myself, so I'm going to tape it up. And that's something, if you're planning on doing things like this, pay attention to that. I'm going to put some tape around it so that I don't cut myself. I have 2 sheets here of sandpaper, 180 and I think this is 320. I'll get this to get the rough stuff off and just clean it up with that, just by rubbing on it. So here are the 2 pieces, and I'm going to mount them like that. But as you can see on the inside, they're not very clean. I've got to clean those up before I do that. So I'm going to start with the rough sandpaper and then just tidy them up with the smooth. Just by holding it flat like this on a nice flat surface, we'll just clean it up a little better. So I've cleaned this one up with the heavy. You can see the difference. So you can see I just cleaned them up so that when they go together, they'll look pretty straight together. And then we'll work the outside once we put it back together. So I just put it together quickly so you can see where I am. It fits in there just like it should. The problem I have is this wood is so thick that I can't use these to hold it together. So I'm having to use the long screws. I'm going to take it apart, clamp them together again, and work down each side here. So what I'm going to have to do is figure out how thick they need to be. According to these, maybe a little bit thicker than that is what I'm going to aim for. And then take them apart, clamp them together, and cut them down or file them down to pretty close to that so that the regular screws will fit in there. I can put it in and start shaping it. That's the plan. And this is the inside. So you can see here where the mark is. I have almost half of it to take off. So I'm just going to mark it all the way around, and then I'm going to go down. Now I did make it a little bit bigger than I wanted it to be, because if I make a mistake, I can always take off. I can't add. Almost there. I didn't want to take off too much with the rasp, and then I will get it down to size with sandpaper. So I've trimmed the wood down. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. One side's a little thicker than the other, but that'll be cleaned up with sandpaper. So I just put it together, and here you can see how it sits right now. Now, obviously, you got to open it, and I have it tightened down quite a lot, so it'll open like that. And see. So now I've got to get these to recess so that I can start cleaning up and shaping the wood that I want. The other thing I've got to do is, if you remember this little pin, which when you close the blade down, stops the blade in the correct position. And what I got to do is make sure that when I put that in there, when this stops, the blade is not going to hit here. And the tip of the blade needs to be in, not sticking out. Plus, you don't want the actual blade edge to hit this spreader here. And hopefully I'll have a wood-handled peasant knife. This is exciting. I'm enjoying this, except I made one boo-boo. Can you see there? When I was cleaning it up, my rasp caught and tore it up a bit. I'll have to clean that up. But so I'm back in the man cave now. We're starting to rain. We've got a storm coming in. It never ends. I don't... Just when I thought I could get my lawn sorted out, it's going to snow. But anyway, worked on the knife some more. And I've put it together here. You can see the shape of the handle and everything. And I thinned these down. Now, the problem I have right now is that although I thinned them down, they're not the same thicknesses. It looks okay there. They're about the same. But on this side, this guy is way thicker than that. So, but while I was doing that, I had to drill the holes so that I could get the screws in, the actual screws for it. I was drilling the holes in. You have to drill a small one. Then I had a countersink so that these would actually be flush. They're not quite flush here, but what happened was I was drilling in the one when I was doing the counter drill, and the drill caught, and it actually snapped one of these. Didn't snap it off, but it broke it. And what I did was I've glued it together and cleaned it up. And it actually turned out better than I thought it would. You can just see the line there. Let me see if I can see there. But it seems to be holding pretty well. And I'm hoping that'll work. If not, might have to find another piece of wood and redo it. So I'm at the point now where I need to start cleaning it up and getting it the right thicknesses and all that good stuff. Say hi to Mary, who is decided to lie on the sandpaper. Now, I haven't put that pin in there, which stops this from going against this this pin sticking through. I'll do that later. Now I've got to start working it with some coarse sandpaper, start rounding these off so that it's more rounded and has a better shape. Right now it's just basic blocks, really. Now, I have with me my sawdust collector, because you know me and magic dust. In case I make another oops, I can fill holes and things like that and tidy things up. I did most of the rough sanding, and now I'm using the really fine sand. And Mary is making sure that I don't mess up again. But here you can see one of the handles. And it's smoothed up nicely now. It's got a bit of roundness, a little bit more rounder here on the top, where so it sits like that in my hand. This is where the blade would be. Just slightly rounded also, that there's no straight edges. And I'm just going to go through and smooth everything up with the fine sandpaper. And then I'm going to put some boiled linseed oil on it. And then we'll put it together and see how we're doing. Mary's getting bored. So you're going to help me. So I cleaned it all up and everything. I put it together and I put the pin in. And the pin is just right on that bubble. It's still going to touch, I think after a little bit, it's going to touch that blade. I have to come up with a different spacer here. The spacers for the back here are just two washers that I have that kind of sort of match the blade. They're a little bit bigger. Ideally, it should be a little ferrule, very small, and I might be able to make one. So hopefully that'll work. And then, of course, I can adjust the tightness on this. But other than that, it's ready to go. I just need to put some linseed oil on here, and we have us a peasant knife with a wood handle. And it actually feels pretty comfortable. So I'm going to clean it up just a touch more to get it a little bit smoother, and then we're going to put some oil on and leave it overnight, put it back together and see where we are. So I finished up the handles and everything, and I figured out a way to get around the blade hitting that pillar that goes through the handles. How I did it was I made another pillar, the same as this one, that locks up where the blade stops. So I'm going to put this pillar at the back. When I tighten the two skins together, they'll only go so far, and that's it, and tighten them down instead of flexing that the way they were. And of course now I don't have the washer issue with Mary biting me. There you go. She's been into this project. Let me show you what Mary's looking at. So here you can see I have it all laid out. I got my two pins, I forget what they call these things. Took me a while to figure it out now, I've forgotten, to hold them together. Here's the original skins and then my wood ones. And as you can see, they are different colors from the same piece of wood. And putting the boiled linseed oil really brought out the color. I thought about putting some patterns on here, but they're really small and I'm not good enough yet. So I'm going to leave that for another project that I'm about to start working on, actually two others. So I'm going to put it all together and then we'll have a look, see what the end result is. So as you can see, Mary has finally decided to take a nap. She's tired. It's been a long day, having to breathe all day. I think I'm done. Maybe a couple of more coats of boiled linseed oil. That's the original way it looked. And now that I've put the pieces of wood on, there it is there. So you can see it. And you can see right there, I added a spacer, which stops this from flexing in and out. And of course you've got the spacer and the block here for the blade. So when it opens, it stops right there. When you close it, it stops again. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but the blade no longer touches that pin. So now you don't have to worry about damaging the blade here. You can adjust, obviously, how tight you want the blade to be. Right now, I haven't really set it in any way. I just put it there so that I can move it back and forth, and you can see the wood and everything. Kind of like this. It worked out better than I thought it would. I like the idea of a peasant knife, and I just thought that wood, because of the history, the wood handles just made more sense to do. I know they do offer one with wood handles, and it is a little bit more expensive. I'm quite happy with this. This is a first time for me, and I learned a lot. It takes some patience and just working away at it carefully. Because the handles were so small, when you compare these handles to this guy, there's quite a difference. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see that the bigger, more standard peasant knife, and the blade obviously is a lot bigger. You can see there. This is a great knife. This is a really good knife for your everyday outdoor stuff. This is a little bit smaller, and I like it because it'll fit in my pocket better. But I think, yeah, you're right. Need to do a handle on this one. When I was doing these and I was done with them, I looked at them and I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have some sort of pattern on here to give it a little bit more grip? And when I tried to draw a pattern on there, I realized that these are really small and I don't have that skill yet. You can see the blade sits in there pretty good. And of course, when you're holding it like this, the blade's not going to go anywhere. So I'm very happy with this. I think it worked out well. Just can't remember the name of the wood. I'll have to have Lee remind me what it is. And I'll put it up here for you. So there you go. My modification. And I've seen these done before, and those guys are really good at what they do. First time for me. Now that I know what I'm dealing with, I think I can go a little bit further. I've been waiting. Remember this guy? This is a knife I really like, and I love the blade style on this. It's a marbles. And it had these on it. And they were so very thin. I didn't like the way it felt. So I got some more of that same wood. Now on this one, you can see how obvious the color difference is huge. It's a little bit bigger and heavier. I don't want to make fancy handles. I just want comfortable handles. I learned that from BPS actually. Their handles are very straightforward and they work. Another project got to work on. And we'll see how that happens. Working on a couple of other things. So here you go. My SVORD Peasant knife, the mini modification. How different it looks. And I think it gives it a more traditional, certainly a more traditional look. When it's closed, it has that very, very nice project. You know, if you're ever wanting to do a wood project, something fairly simple and straightforward, and you have a drill, couple of drill bits, sandpaper, maybe a rasp or something like that, you can do this on just about any knife. It's a fun project. But before you do that, don't forget, like, share, subscribe. You know the story. Pretty sure I'll be back again. Like I said, I have those projects. Summer is here, got the kayak all cleaned, went through my fishing stuff, checked my camping gear. We're ready. Woot! Summer. Time to get out and about. And of course, I have some knives I want to show you. That goes without saying. You all be safe out there. And thanks for watching. Take care now. See you again soon.